Yo, what's up? We are now at McDonald's at the fast charger for them. And this summer, ADAC, which is in Germany, it's like enough in Norway. They do lots of tests and stuff, good stuff, but they measured charging loss, or they basically measured charging loss and discharging loss in EVs, because they wanted to show you that whatever you see on the meter, how many watt hour per kilometer or whatever the car is consuming, that's not what you're actually getting from the plug. You have to put in more, which I just happened to also make a video about charging loss this summer to explain you the differences and just how physics work. But so the case was out there for a while, and then recently TV2, they made an article about this, and so TV2, then suddenly lots of people are talking about this. But you see, ADAC, they figured out somehow that Tesla Model 3 had 25% loss, meaning that if you put in, let's say you put in 1 kilowatt hour, you only get 750 watt hour out or something like that, Pretty big deviation between what the car displays and what the reality is. So I thought that was a little bit high. It shouldn't be that high. So I wanted to test this, and I just happen to be in a BMW i3 now. And they also tested the i3 and measured 12% loss or deviation. I think more like deviation, right? So we will also see that, because today we're going to measure how much energy the car actually uses or claims is using, and then we will also measure the charging loss in the plug here. We have AC charging over here. So yes, the car has been charged to 84% right now, and the temperature in the pack is 10.6 degrees. So that is perfect. We're gonna take it for a spin and see now. So I've been preheating the car for at least half an hour. I've also been driving around a little bit. I just washed the car, so try to heat up the battery. So we will measure. I will check it exactly once we start driving. Let's see, it pulled a little bit power now because we just started the car again. So we will write down exactly how many percent we have with fractions, and then we will reset all the trip, and we drive north, we drive a trip, and then come back here and charge. And we want to drive far enough so we don't get too much measurement errors. All right, we're on the move, and I chose to drive at exactly 90 kilometers per hour on the GPS for this test, and it will be the same for the Model 3. It doesn't matter really, but just have the driving test equally. But all right, now I just have to figure out how far I should drive. There's no point to drive it down to almost zero, but at least we should discharge the battery, so it needs to charge, let's say, an hour, because then we get, like I mentioned, less measurement errors. If you do a too short trip, then that could be inaccurate. So the consumption also is a bit high now, so we have to wait for it to stabilize. We are now at Kløfta, and we have driven 27 kilometers. So I think it's good enough test so far. We have to go back anyway, so 72.6% now. Yeah, let's go back. All right, we're back at the starting point, and the first thing I did when I came here was to switch off HVAC, because many cars like the i3 here will count the trip even if you're stationary. Whereas Tesla, once you put the car in park or stop it, it will not count the energy used for heater or whatever while you're stationary. So in my opinion, Tesla is doing the correct measurement, because the trip itself, when you drive somewhere and you stop, the trip ended when you stopped, and then whatever the car consumes while stationary is not technically a part of the trip. But okay, so anyway, so I checked all the stats now, the distance and everything, and we're gonna charge it up. And I also I measured that we started at 83.7%. So now we have to charge back to exactly 83.7%. So you see here, the electrified app reports 9.8 kilowatt. This is the net power into the battery after charging loss. So in the car, there is a onboard charger that converts AC into DC, and then we get so we probably get 11 kilowatt from the socket outside, and then into the battery 9.8. But we have to have the car on right now, so there are some screens sucking. I saw that the idle power draw is around 200 watts. So ideally, you know, we don't want to run this too long. The problem is that once we power off the car, like this, after a while, the OBD port will go to sleep. So I can't see exactly at any time how many percent we have. So I have to check the app, I guess, to see. And then another problem is that I noticed with the i3 is that if I lock the car and then I come back here and unlock it, the AC charging will stop. So I think I just have to camp and stay around. Yeah, you see, the screen died and then the OBD connection died also. Oh, okay, so I guess I have to hang out around the car then for about an hour. All right, we've been charging for almost an hour now. And we're gonna stop at exactly 83.7%. But yeah, I've been sitting in the car's been off. So I don't want to disturb it too much, but we have to take into account that maybe I caused a little bit of idle consumption here, because I figured out the trick. You see, now the car, I mean, the OBD shuts off, but what if I just open the door and then close it again, and then I connect, then it will give me the data. But then we have this tiny screen here on, but all the other screens are off and the lights are off. So it's a way for me to just keep the car away. Okay, it's almost there. Yeah, whatever. I think at this point, okay, we want to fire up the car, but switch off the light here. At least like this, HVAC is still off, is pulling a little bit extra power, but we're almost here. You're almost done now. Yeah, get ready. Oh, finally the heater can be turned on. But yeah, we actually charged to 83.8%, so 0.1% too much. Right? You know what? We can make that as a compensation for the little extra energy we spend while to keep the car awake. But now let's get MC Hammer, my Tesla Model 3, and then we redo the test. All right, we're now with MC Hammer juicing up. I guess we could just charge to 70%. So with MC Hammer, you can, or Tesla, you can set the charge limit. So I set it to 70%, so that's great. So then we don't have to pay attention to when it finishes and all that. So interesting. I don't know if this is a coincidence, but well, this one shows you voltage. You see, 238. This is three-phase, so you have to take this one and multiply by 1, well, the square root of 2, and then you get so it's, yeah, whatever. But you see here, this is ScanMyTesla. We can look at all the status in here, but if I switch off the heater now, you see we get 10.6 kilowatt into the battery. Not 10 like we got in the i3. But anyway, let's charge to 70% and then we do the same thing. All right, done. We start at exactly 70%. Okay, we're on the run again, and this time I have to cruise at 92 kilometers per hour to match the 90 GPS speed. So yeah, we go the same place to Kløfta back again. Oh, hang on, slow poke. Okay, overtake it. Okay, we're now at Kløfta, turning around. We have 62.7% battery. Yeah, it's getting dark now. We are back at McDonald's charging. So yeah, let's show you the charging screen here. 237 volt, three-phase, 16 amp. So this one is what the car reports pulling from the plug. Yeah, 11 kilowatt from the plug. And also we can see here that you know, the i3 reported 55.1 kilometer distance. This one reports 55.8, and according to Google, it's 55. So from what I measured before, the i3 has the correct distance, so Tesla over reports the distance. But if you do the math here, this one based on this one multiplied by this one, right, you will get 9.43 kilowatt hour that we spend. And then I also use ScanMyTesla to record how much we spend, and you see ScanMyTesla reports 9.46 kilowatt hour. So right, we have good numbers on how much we spend, and now we are charging, actually getting 10.7 kilowatt. Wow. Huh? So it's very little loss here. Seems like, my impression is that the onboard charger in the Model 3 is very efficient. It seems to be more efficient than in the Model S and X. So from what I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Model 3 has that silicon carbide inverter. So maybe that's good shit, yeah. So now we have to wait 50 minutes to charge it to 70%. Oh yeah, also, yeah, by the way, the i3 spent less energy than my Model 3 at least. I don't know why my Model 3 is kind of thirsty. Yeah, it could be the tires, could be the mud flaps. But all right. Anyway, let's wait then. So you see, because this car doesn't do weird shit like stop the charging if I unlock the doors, then I could just leave the car. So we see the screen is on now. And well, that was just ScanMyTesla, it's just a mobile phone. But if you lock the car, then the screen should go off. Yeah, you see? So this is what it should be when you're charging and you're not by the car. Then we got the minimum losses here. We only get the losses in the onboard charger. So I will just go home now. I'll live nearby and then I come back. I can just check out on the app here. So that's also very nice. We just look in the app here and see how far we are. And I will come back once I'm almost at 70%. Right, it's been a while now and we are almost done. So let me show you. Been charging here and the car is locked now, so the screens are not on. And if you try to ninja scan my Tesla screen from outside, let me try here, okay. There, look. The battery is supposedly getting 10.9 kilowatt. Wow. So when we enter, it should drop to 10.6 or 7. So it means that the screens inside, and whatever other stuff is in there, tends to suck around 200 watts. Okay, been charging for 53 minutes. Getting close now. 69%. Voltage is 238. Yeah, seems like similar to earlier. And then even now when the screen is on, we are still getting 10.8. Yeah, around 10.8. You know, actually, when I think about this, a screen like this shouldn't pull more than 5-10 watts. You know, think about the laptop, you know. A laptop screen doesn't pull 100 watts. What might pull extra power here is maybe the brain inside the screen. There's maybe a CPU and some stuff running it. And then, of course, when you're not in here, then it just shuts down. But the main brain in the car is still working, like the BMS or whatever, to control the charging and whatever. Oh, we're done. Charging complete, 70%. Here, it stopped exactly at 70%. All right, now it's pulling, you see a little bit of idle power here, 200 watts for pumps and whatever. But let's check the data now. Okay, so the charging station here, if you look at the Fortum's report, it says that we have gotten 10.43 kilowatt hour. And then if you take that energy and divide it by the distance, 55.1, not 55.8 that this car reports because it's incorrect, then we get 189.3 watt hour per kilometer. And if you take that one and divide it by 169 that this car claims, then we get the deviation of 12%, not 25% that ADAC managed to measure. So why the big difference? And also, why do they even look at this? Because charging loss is very variable. It depends how fast you're charging. Also, if it's one phase, three phase, if it's DC, you know, especially if it's fast charging, supercharging, then you will have even more charging loss. So whatever happens with the battery, I mean, whatever happens outside the battery before the energy gets in here, is kind of irrelevant to count in the car's display. It's really weird way to do it like that. I mean, you just have to know that there's a loss, yeah. But also, okay, I mentioned that this car actually over-reported distance. And what does that have to do with the consumption then? Well, you know, because the car claims that you drive further, and the car measures how many kilowatt hours you have spent. Just like, you know, in the ScanMyTesla, it measured how many kilowatt hours you have. But if the distance is over-reported, then it seems like the consumption is lower. And then the other way is that if you have an I-Pace tends to under-report distance by as much as 2.7%. Then it means that the consumption you see in I-Pace is actually not that high. It is 2.7% lower than that. If you actually do the math, you will figure out that that's how it works. But that means that if we take in account the one that this screen reported, you know, the 9.46 kilowatt hour, and then divide that one by the actual distance, 55.1. Actually, Google claims it's 55. So yeah, it should be around there, right? Then we get about 172 watt-hour per kilometer, not 169 that the car reports. You see? And that is actually 1.6% error. But many times when I measure error around Dal, when I do the longer stretch with lower measurement error, then I usually get around 1% error on this car. But if you take that one in account, then the deviation is only 10%, not 12%, because of that. But I'm not sure if ADAC knows about this. They should know about this. And I actually take in account this every time I do my range test from now on. Before I didn't know about this, I didn't care, I guess. But yeah. And so when we have 10% deviation between the display versus in, how can we explain why it's like that? I'm not sure if other people can explain, if ADAC or other people can explain, but I can actually explain why it is like that. Because this summer, I measured charging loss. Just happened to do it as a coincidence, you know, it had nothing to do with ADAC. I measured charging loss at 11 kilowatt charging AC. It was 8.7%. So then it means that the 10% error that we have here, what about the last 1% then? Well, you know, so you have around about 9% loss before the electricity went into the battery. And what is that charging loss, by the way? It is the process of transforming or converting, rather, I think that's more correct, right? Converting AC, alternating current, into DC, direct current that the battery needs. That process has a little bit of loss, and that is the 9% loss I measured, which actually turns into heat in the onboard charger, which is back there somewhere. But also remember that when you discharge the battery, when we are driving and you take energy out of the battery, you will also get some losses. And that explains the 1% discharge loss, because how much discharge loss you have depends on how high you discharge it. So if you hammer it, floor it, max acceleration, something like that, then you will have a higher, what I call heat loss. And this is the whole principle of doing the whole yo-yo. You know, when I purposely hammer it several times, I floor it and regen and floor it to heat up the battery for various reasons, then that is how it works. You know, so we actually don't know how ADAC measured this, because I tried to look into the report and look into how they did the whole testing. They did a testing cycle, something like that. They had some kind of eco testing cycle, whatever they call it, that looks like a VLTP test cycle or something. And then afterwards, they have a 22 kilowatt AC charging station, and then they charge up the car. And that's how they measure it. So it's actually similar to how I measure it, but I'm not sure if they thought about everything when they measure it, because like I mentioned, you know, Tesla, once they put the car in park, it will stop counting the consumption. Whereas many cars, many of the German cars especially, even when you put the car in park, it will still count the energy needed, energy spent. And of course, if you have a heater running, distance remains the same, but the energy spent is growing, then the consumption also goes up and up and up until you stop the heater. So that's probably why the deviation on some of the German cars are lower, because yeah, I don't know when they actually do the whole readout. And then why was it so high on the Tesla then? Well, if they forgot to close the door. No, but seriously, you know, Tesla, once you open the door, the heater will start immediately. And the same thing, and when they did the test, I forgot to mention that. When they do the test, they drive a test cycle and they have heater on. But when they park the Tesla, they might not notice it, that the heater is still running and it's still sucking energy. and then maybe they do some, they write down the numbers while the heater is still running, and then maybe they plug it in, and the heat is still running or something. I don't know. Maybe that's how they managed to get so high numbers. But I also wonder about all the other cars, though. Why the other cars are somewhat high? Because yeah, we have like Seat Me Electric was 21%, and also the Zoes, they had 19 and 18%. Because usually charging loss shouldn't be more than about 10%. And then discharging loss shouldn't be more than about a few percent, like a Tesla. The reason why Tesla has only 1% is because it has low internal resistance in the battery. So, yeah, and that's also actually the explanation why some of the German cars came out quite well, like the e-tron and the i3, because I also measured them to have low internal resistance in the battery. But as for these other cars, why were they so high? I don't know. I have to borrow one car and test it myself. But you know, this case here was really not a case. I mean, ADAC, they tested it this summer, and almost nobody talked about it, at least not in Norway, until now. Because Brom, they recently made a case about this. You know, Brom TV2, you guys remember them? I think I talked about them before, right? And they have a case now, and it's been shared many places in Norwegian groups. Like, and the headline is, "This is how EVs are tricking their users." You know, like what? And they say, yeah, you know, you are supposedly you don't get as far as you think. And there's some stuff about EVs, how okay, then they refer to the test, and that you can't trust the meter. Well, yeah, okay, but why did they angle it like this? Because when I look at the report from ADAC, they presented the data in a very neutral way. They didn't say, you know, tricking, scandal or something, you know. So I don't know where they got it from that it's like this. Because think about this: if you buy something online, or yeah, if you use the Visa card in another country, the bank is taking a percentage because of the exchange. And also, actually, when people send money to me on PayPal also takes a cut, actually quite big percentage cut. There's a percentage cut plus a fixed rate. So wait, does it mean that the PayPal, they are tricking the users? No, it's just a part of the whole, you know, the whole deal that you do a transaction or something, you have to pay a little fee, you know. And almost the same thing here, that we are charging the car. We are doing a little transaction here. We are converting AC from the plug here into DC that goes into the battery. And then the onboard charging is doing some work. And then it generates a little bit of heat and you get a little bit of loss there. And the same thing when you are discharging the battery. Just the way physics work, that you get a little bit of losses there. So it's not really tricking the users. No, I don't know how to explain this, but you guys understand me, right? But yeah, so what should I say then? And I actually don't know why ADAC had such a big deviation, but you know, my test was very well documented. I show you guys everything, how I charge it up initially, how I drove back and forth and stop here and charge it back again. So everything has been very well documented, and it goes for other tests I do also, like the range test, the banana box test. The reason why it's called banana box test is because banana boxes, I figured you can find them everywhere. And so I didn't use some kind of weird unit that only I can get access to. I chose banana boxes. I actually initially I considered using toilet paper, but yeah. So it became, yeah. But you know, my test can easily be replicated and verified for you guys to see that, you know, I'm not bullshitting. So yeah, maybe you guys should try this. Try your car, whatever car that is, you know, EV, Tesla, e-tron, whatever. Try measure, and also Polestar, yeah. Polestar users, they talk about this today, and they wanted to know. So you guys can do it yourself. I don't have a Polestar anymore, so sorry. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna end here, yeah, and let us take the discussion in the comment section instead. So, all right, that's gonna be it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, thank you for watching and talk to you later.